NBA Now by Chat Sports. I'm Harrison Graham. He is Chase Sr. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at HGrahamNFL. I do a lot of NBA stuff there as well. At Chase_Senior. If you miss your question, we'll answer them over there if you message us. All right, let's start with Chase Wyman here, #NBA. Who do you think would be the Heat's biggest target before the trade deadline? Thoughts on the Heat going for De'Aaron Fox? I'll just jump in first. De'Aaron Fox ain't getting traded.
Yeah, are you willing to possibly give up some of the great young players on that Heat roster? That's what you'll have to do to get a player back like De'Aaron Fox. So, Chase Wyman, I don't think the Heat are going to go after De'Aaron Fox, but whoever named you, they did a good job with that.
There are some other names, maybe like a Blake Griffin could be an option. And speaking of him, via the buyout market, how about the Lakers signing Blake Griffin from Anthony Navajes? I don't think I pronounced that right, by the way. I think they're a contender, and if you're watching live, we'll get into some Blake Griffin destinations. Maybe, just maybe, the Lakers are on that list, but LA is going to be in the mix for any veteran option that becomes available.
LA has been a prime possible destination for some of the potential buyout candidates, and now that it's official that Blake Griffin is going to hit the market, the Lakers are going to inquire about his services. And I'm going to reiterate this. Blake Griffin is not going to go back to LA for the opposite team at the Staples Center and be a high flyer, an uber athlete that's going to take over games and wow you with his athleticism. What he would bring to the Lakers, a veteran presence, a guy that's played in a lot of playoff games, and would give you some valuable depth. Now, I will say this about Blake Griffin, though. Sometimes, and we see this in all major sports, a change of scenery can help an athlete and do them wonders. Maybe Blake Griffin just needs to be re-energized a little bit. Now, he's not going to just somehow magically recapture his athleticism, but maybe the focus is more fine-tuned. Maybe he's energized a little bit. He's working on a little bit of an adrenaline rush as well, and Blake Griffin to the Lakers, it's something that could happen, and he could give them some front court depth.
Another Chase, I think this is Chase Sr.'s burner accounts on today's show. Who's most likely to get traded now that Badley Beal and Zach LaVine aren't likely to be traded? Number one, I agree. I don't think either of those guys get moved. The Bulls would be crazy to move LaVine, and the Wizards are playing better. Give us a couple of names real quick. Who do you think gets moved?
So the big one for me is Vucevic out of Orlando, and last year, the Magic were a playoff team. Heading into this season, I was excited about the prospects for Orlando, but they have had to deal with a litany of injuries all across the board. They're one of the worst teams in the NBA. So as you kind of reconfigure and reset if you're Orlando, what are the pluses? What are the advantages of holding on to Vucevic, who is already in his 30s by now? Trade him, get some great assets back. That's the number one name I'm looking at.
Barry Bonds hopping in on the show, #NBA. Should Boston trade Kemba Walker? There's been a little chatter that this could be a possibility, Chase, and a big reason why is A, they need a big man, and B, Kemba hasn't really been the same guy for the better part of a year due to a lingering knee issue.
So you look at his numbers here, 18.5 points per game, and you say, well, Kemba Walker is doing what Kemba Walker has been doing his entire career, dating all the way back to his insane UConn days where he took UConn on that magical NCAA tournament, one of the most clutch performances of all time, right? But the numbers don't indicate what you've seen with your eyes. And Kemba Walker has not been the same player since he injured his knee last year sometime around the All-Star break. Was it in the NBA All-Star game? We're not sure. Was it just before, just after? I don't know. But in that time frame, that's when Kemba Walker injured his knee. And he hasn't been the same player since. Now, to answer that question, if you're drawing up a trade, could you trade Kemba Walker to a team like Dallas in exchange for maybe Kristaps Porzingis? Now, you might look at that and say, you're crazy. Well, Porzingis is in the same category as Kemba Walker because he's averaging like 20 and 8, but because of the physical injuries, both of those guys aren't the same players. So do you do a swap with two players who have similar injury question marks moving forward? Possibly, and Luka Doncic could really use a playmaking guard alongside him, but I think the Celtics are going to hold on to Kemba Walker. Danny Ainge did try to trade him before the season, and a lot of teams across the league were not happy about that because they knew that Kemba Walker was not right. So finding him a trade partner now could be even more difficult.
We'll see what happens with Boston. They're a team to watch at the deadline. Name a player that will get traded at the NBA trade deadline. I think Nikola Vucevic is a guy. I think Andre Drummond gets dealt. Keep an eye on Kyle Lowry as well. Get your votes in. Name a player that you think could get traded before the deadline. Miles per hour, could the Mavs trade for Pascal Siakam? I think Toronto could be a seller. I don't think they're going to sell their young pieces, though.
I don't think so either. And Toronto the last few years, with Masai Ujiri, Nick Nurse, they have been a player development machine. Look at the players that they've been able to groom. And I think when you're an organization, you take a lot of pride in grooming and developing some of your homegrown talent. And Pascal Siakam, there was a stretch there 2 years ago when he was playing alongside Kawhi, and a little bit last year before the bubble in which he really struggled, where you were looking at Pascal Siakam as a top 30 player potentially. Now, did he hit his ceiling already? Potentially. But Pascal Siakam is a player that the Toronto Raptors targeted in Cameroon. He has gotten just incrementally better over time, and I think he's a valuable player to hold on to, so I do not think that Toronto is going to part ways with one of their homegrown studs.
Shout out your favorite team in the comments section. Chase is actually a Sixers fan up there on the
Philly
East Coast.
area.
Number 1 seed heading into the All-Star break. So let us know what your favorite team is. I am a Mavs fan. It's been a little up and down this year, but, that's how it goes. We can't all be bandwagon Lakers fans. Who said that? Shout out your favorite team in the comments. Let's see, a Lakers, a Warriors. Go ahead and let us know. And speaking of, maybe you're a fan of one of these teams. We got a Lakers YouTube channel, Warriors, Mavs, and Celtics. We'll kind of cycle through the different links here. If you're a Lakers fan, youtube.com/LakersTV. Just crossed 32,000 subs. Go find more videos over there about the Lakers. Golden State Warriors today, almost at 14,000 subscribers. youtube.com/WarriorsTV. Our Mavericks channel is approaching 13K. It's youtube.com/MavsTV. And then Boston Celtics today, one of our newer ones, one of our smaller ones. We're still ramping it up. It's youtube.com/CelticsTV. Subscribe to our team channels if you are a fan of one of these teams. And even if you aren't, I would encourage you to do so because, hey, we may launch more team channels in the future. So as these ones have success, look forward to more channels down the road. Okay, Rashard Lee, Joe Harris to the Lakers. Why would Brooklyn do that? All right?
So I just have to be frank here. There is a 0% chance that the Nets are going to trade Joe Harris. Now, they lost a lot of depth because of that James Harden trade. Joe Harris has been one of the best players on the Nets the entire season. They just gave him a big deal. And on the other side, Lakers don't have any assets to give up for a player of that caliber.
CO Plays is next up. Who do you think the Raptors can ship Baines for since he has been disappointing? I mean, a second-round pick maybe? He can grab rebounds for somebody? Aaron Baines has no trade value. Like, you're not getting anything for him. I'll say this real quick on the Raptors, then we'll go to the next question. Please sell. Just sell. Thank you, Kyle Lowry. Ship him off to Philly or another contender. Aaron Baines has no trade value, though. We'll go to Robert Bruce here. Do you think the Celtics still go after Myles Turner and Greg McDermott?
So we talked about Vucevic as being the prime trade candidate for the Boston Celtics. That's going to take a haul. And does Boston have the assets to give up? Because of that $28 million trade exception, they can get a player realistically back like Vucevic. But if they don't want to part with a package that might include Peyton Pritchard and Marcus Smart, maybe they do go to that second tier and they try to target a player like Myles Turner. Greg McDermott on the other side, he'll give you a shooter off the bench, but that is not a need for the Boston Celtics. They need some front court players and some dynamic ones at that.
Ezra Valdez, Desmond Bane for Wes Iwundu and Dwight Powell. The Grizzlies say no because Desmond Bane, shout out TCU, my alma mater, is like top 10 in the NBA in three-point shooting. They're not parting ways with the rookie three-point shooter of his caliber. Dongai Zhang, what is the trade going to look like if the Rockets trade Victor Oladipo, PJ Tucker, and Eric Gordon together? First of all, I think that's very unlikely. I don't think you can trade all of them together just financially. You're going to have to find a unique partner. Maybe a three-way trade is possible. How about this? Out of those three, who do you think is most likely to get dealt?
Victor Oladipo, because he turned down a long-term extension with the Houston Rockets. And Harrison, you do make a good point there. Maybe Houston they just decide to go with a full-on rebuild, and they do trade all 3 of those players, but it would have to be a 3-4 team combined trade.
Which we've seen one this year involving the Rockets already, so who knows? Ryan Matt, no relation to Matt Ryan. Myles Turner to Dallas. Local kid, grew up in the DFW Metroplex. I think he would, be open to that, but what can the Mavs offer, right? Maxi Kleba and a first-round pick in 2025 because they can't trade one until then. That's probably not going to get it done. You'd probably have to throw Jalen Brunson in a trade, and I don't think Dallas is doing that with the way he's played this year.
No, because if you watch the Mavericks down the stretch, other than Luka Doncic, who's been the Mavericks' go-to guy?
Jalen's their other playmaker.
It's been Jalen Brunson down the stretch, which doesn't surprise me at all. Won a couple of national championships at Villanova. The fact that he went as late as he did in the NBA draft was just insane to me.
The Luka Jalen Brunson draft, one of the greatest 2-player drafts of all time.
Because those are your 2 best players and your 2 clutch performers going down the stretch. And the other predicament with Dallas, they don't really have a lot of assets to give up for a player like Myles Turner, which is a problem.
Yep. Ash Quaresma, Buddy Hield to the Mavs for Pal, Tim, and some picks. This is probably more, at least realistic, only because Sacramento has a bunch of these like second, third tier type of guys that cost too much. So I think they'd be open to moving them. Dwight Powell doesn't have much trade value. He has not looked the same after the Achilles tear. I think Hardaway, who's played really well this year and is a free agent after this year, is kind of a match there for Buddy Hield. But is Buddy Hield an upgrade from Tim Hardaway at this point? You have him long term, but for this year, producer Sam, who's an OU alum, says yes, but what do you think, Chase?
So Tim Hardaway is a straight-up gunner, and he's somewhat inconsistent.
Yes.
Buddy Hield, a little bit more consistent. But hold on, I'm looking at the highway right now, and I'm seeing Daryl Morey on the highway. There's a highway chase. It's a robbery because he traded Josh Richardson for Seth Curry.
That's bad.
That's a bad trade in hindsight
well.
when you look at it, because Josh Richardson has been abysmal for the Mavericks, doesn't fill a need at all, has been bad alongside Luka Doncic. And on the other side of that, Seth Curry has been terrific for the Sixers, both from a fit standpoint, and he's the son-in-law of Doc Rivers, so there's some familiarity there as well.
Jason 103, any prospects us Warriors fans should look out for in case they keep the Minnesota pick, which is top 3 protected. So let's say the ping pong balls don't go Minnesota's way and they're outside the top 3. These are your top 5 prospects. You're not getting Cade Cunningham. Let's be clear on that. He's going number 1, I would say at worst number 2 overall. So you're not getting him if you're Golden State, because if he's top 2, that means Minnesota keeps the pick there. But we just wanted to include him because he is the top guy there. It's a little early in the draft process. It's a weird year in college basketball with COVID-19. Some players have opted out, like Jalen Johnson of Duke there, Chase. He could be a realistic option because that would mean it would be the number 4 or number 5 pick.
It really all depends on where that pick falls for Minnesota. If it's within the top 3, Harrison, as you mentioned, it's going to be protected. That moves to next year.
Yep.
If it is outside of the top 3, you're looking at potentially some of those options right there. If those players do fall, obviously there's 5 listed there, so some of them are going to be available outside of the top 3.
Who is your favorite draft prospect? The name everyone knows is Cade Cunningham, and being a Big 12 guy, I've really come to love his game. He's big, he's long, he can shoot, he's dynamic. Get your votes in. Favorite draft prospect for 2021. Super chat from Steve Peterson. Appreciate the $5. Rosas owes the Raptors a thank you for giving up a coach midseason. They now join in on as a third team on the Raptors blockbuster to make things work. I'm not going to lie, I don't know what's going on here.
So the Raptors assistant took the Timberwolves job.
I get that
so
part,
that's what he's talking about.
What's
there.
The third team on the blockbuster? What does that mean?
I'm
Do you
not
know what he's
sure.
saying there?
Yeah.
Try and clarify for us,
Steve. If you could clarify, that'd be great.
Yeah,
not really getting the point there.
We knew the T-Wolves hired their assistant coach, but not sure the second part of that point. Appreciate the super chat there. Miles Lewis, what about Norman Powell to the Lakers for KCP at 2027 first? I mean, I like honestly, Powell might have equal, if not maybe more value than KCP. He is younger. I know KCP played well in the playoffs last year. What do you think?
Yeah, I do like Powell and Miles. I think you're a glass half full guy if you're looking all the way at 2027. I don't know if that's in play or not.
Bronny Jr. will be in the NBA for 3 years
At that point, yeah, and we'll be much older, which is
Yes.
scary. Norman Powell, if the Lakers can pull it off,
That'd be a great fit.
he'd be a great fit because I actually think he's one of the most underrated role players in the league.
Yeah.
Norman Powell for KCP, I'm not sure. Clutch Sports, KCP, LeBron, there's the tie-in there. LeBron loves KCP.
He was great in the
so
playoff
I don't,
run last year.
I don't know if general manager LeBron is going to want to move off of one of his buddies in KCP.